let us go to today's Daf Yomi. Today's Daf Yomi is Kiddushin Yud Zayin, but we're going to start on Tes Zayin on base 16b. 10 lines from the bottom, we're discussing the concept of Hanaka, that when an Eved Ivri, when a Hebrew slave works for a Jewish master and his term is up, he has to give him Hanaka, severance gifts. So the Gemara tells us that we learned earlier, these are the Hebrew slaves who get the severance gifts. Hayotze b'shanim, if the slave goes free after serving his time, is serving his 6 years, uviyovel, or if he goes free at the Jubilee year, uvimisas adon, or if he goes free with the death of his master, and then the ama ivriya, and also a female slave, pisimanin. She goes free when she goes through adolescence. So she also gets the severance. But if there's a slave who runs away, the Yotzi Begiron Kesef, or if there's a slave who buys his freedom by calculating the number of amount he was bought for, and how many years of service he has left, and those two people, the Boreach, the one who runs away, and also the one who buys his freedom, we don't have to give him severance gifts. Rabbi Meir Omer Boreach Manikamo. Rameir disagrees. He says if he runs away, then I agree with you, we don't give him severance. But if he buys his own freedom, then we do give him severance. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Arba Manikim Lahem, there are 4 of these categories, 4 people who get severance. It's not, Rabbi Shimon is not arguing with the Tanna Kama, he's just clarifying what Tanna Kama is saying. He's saying there are 4 people who get severance, Shlosha Be'ish, Shlosha Be'isha, 3 by a man and 3 by a woman. You can't say that either a man or a woman, either one has 4. Because the man does not go free when he has the signs of adolescence. Just the opposite. The male slave is only sold when he's an adult. And the woman does not pierce her ear if she wants to remain a slave. She doesn't go to the doorpost and pierce her ear. She doesn't go through that ceremony. So the Gemara asks the question, how do we know the halachos, all these halachos of Hanaka, these severance gifts? Because it says in the Brisa, I might think that you only give the severance gifts to the slave who goes free after 6 years. How do I know that also you include in severance one who goes out in the Jubilee year, the death of the master, and the Hebrew slave with signs of adolescence, the female slave? It says the words tishachenu, and then it says v'chi tishachenu. It says in both times. I might think it comes to include the one who runs away, the boreach, the one who runs away, and also the one who redeems himself. I might think he is also going to be somebody who gets severance. When you send him free from you, which means this is somebody who you sent away. Yotzav boreach, the Yotzav Begiron Kesef. This comes to exclude a person who is. This comes to exclude a person who runs away and somebody who redeems himself. You're not the one who sent him away, therefore you don't have to give him severance. Rameir says, yes, Rameir agrees that you don't give the severance to the one who runs away, because you didn't send him away. But somebody who has redeemed himself, you did send that under those circumstances, the mayor says, Barech, the one who runs away, you don't give him the severance pay. But the one who redeems himself, you are the one who sent him away, because you have to accept his money and then you send him away. That's how Rashi explains it. So therefore, you give him severance pay. So the Gemara says, well, everybody agrees, both Tanna Kama and Rabbi Meir both agree that you don't give severance pay to the one who runs away. So the Gemara says, but forget about that. Boreach, forget about the fact that you don't give him severance pay. Shlamabai, you should need to he should need to complete the years that he missed or the amount of time that he missed. He ran away. Let him finish the job. So the Gemara says, "The Tanya Minayla Boreach Shechayv Hasham." How do we know that one who runs away from his job as a Hebrew slave, he needs to complete his service? The verse says, "Talmor Sheishanim Yavod." 6 years he has to work on top of 17a. Yachol Afilu Chala. I might think, well, let's say he gets sick, he still has to, within those 6 years, he has to complete that time. Talmor Uvashvi'is Yetze. In the 7th year, he goes free. So we see from here, even if he didn't work 6 complete years, he goes free. So we see from here he has to complete the time. So what do you mean you give him severance? Let him complete the time first. Now we're talking about a case where the slave ran away and then it became the Jubilee year soon after that. So Mao the Tema might have said, Yovel, I might have So hold on one second. So he says, so therefore our question is, shouldn't he have to complete it? So the Gemara explains, no, what we're talking about here is that he ran away and then automatically, right afterwards, became the Jubilee year. So you might have said, since the Jubilee year came right away after he ran away, we might consider this like you sent him away. Well, and we might have said that in those circumstances, we would have to give him a severance pay. We wouldn't penalize him. So we don't say that. And under these circumstances, you don't give him a severance pay because he ran away. I might think, we just said, I might think even if he's sick, he has to complete it. In the 7th year, he goes free. So I feel chala kol sheish. You might think even if he's sick for all 6 years, so we don't say that. But Tanya and we say if he's sick for 3 years and he works for 3 years, he doesn't have to make it up. But if he's sick for all 6 years, he has to make it up. So why in the first source it says if he's sick, it doesn't put a time limit on it. But the second source it says if he's sick for 6 years, he has to make it up. So it depends what type of sickness he was. If he was sick for 6 years, but he was doing like little minor work during that time, like needlework, then we're going to say that he doesn't need to make it up. The Gemara says, well, this price itself is an internal contradiction. It's one way to read the price says if he's sick for 3 years and he works for 3 years, he doesn't need to make it up, which implies that but if he's sick for 4 years, he needs to make it up. But the next clause says if he's sick for all 6 years, he needs to make it up. Which means if it's just for 4 years, he doesn't need to make it up. So how do we understand the Bryce? So this is what the Bryce means. If he's sick for 4 years, then we're going to view it as though he was sick for all 6 years, and he has to make it up. Once he's sick for 4 years, the majority of the time, then we view it as though he was sick for all 6 years, and he needs to make it up. So I want to connect this teaching of the Eved Ivri to the workers in general and to teachers who are sick more than half the time, and this is a dispute amongst the Rishonim, whether or not we could apply the paradigm of the Eved Ivri to the workers nowadays. Then the Rabbanan, the rabbis, talk, how much of a severance payment do we give him? So, Chamesh Slam, we give him 5 sel, and we call min from min. It says in the verse, you give him from your sheep, from your grain, and from your wine. And there's 3 types of severance, and you give him 5 sel from every single one. Shein Chamesh Esrei Slime. That's what Rabbi Meir says, 5 from each one, and there are 3 types, so that's 15. That's Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says Shloshim. You give him 30, because Shloshim shall have an Ivri. Shall have a Kanani, really. Like the 30, if you kill a Canaanite slave, you have to pay a penalty of 30 selah if your ox scores a Canaanite slave. Rabbi Shimon says Chamishim, 50, Kechamishim Shebe'erachan. If a person says, makes a vow, Erachalai, I'm going to give my vow, the most amount of money that can fall into is 50 silver, 50 shkolim. And so therefore that's the amount that we pay. So now let's analyze this according to Rabbi Shimon. So Amar Mar, let's analyze the Chamesh Slam, we call Minvamin, 5 sel from everyone, Shem Chamesh Slam, which is 15. That's the position of Rabbi Meir. So the Gemara's first question is, Rabbi Meir, Minyana Azal Shmina, and why is Rabbi Meir telling us math, that 5 times 3 is 15. It's obvious. So what's his point? So the Gemara says, no, his point is a kamashmon mivtzar hudu mivtzar way mehai minyana. You can't give him less than 15. But if you give him less than one and more from the other, then that would work. Meaning to say you don't have to do 5 from each of the 3. You could go 10 from one and then 2.5 from the others. That would be okay also. My time with Rabbi Meir. So what's the reason why Rabbi Meir horns out 5 from each one? So Rabbi Meir compares it to a firstborn son. Yoav Rekam, it says by firstborn, and also by the Hanaka, it says the word Rekam in the verse. Just like by a firstborn, it's 5 silver coins to redeem. Also by the Hanaka, it's 5. Maybe you have to just give a total of 5. It says, if it would say Rekam at the end of that would be right. But it says Rekam at the beginning. Shadi Rekam Atzon, Rekam Agoran, Rekam Yaakov. So therefore, you apply the 5 to the sheep, the granary, and the winery. Gemara says, "V'neilaf Rekam me'olas re'iyah." Well, why don't we learn out the words Rekam from the concept? It also appears by the pilgrimage offering called the Olas Re'iyah, which there the Gemara Chagiga says it's either 2 sela or even a less of amount. So Gemara says, Amar Kra, Asher Beiracha Hashem Elokecha. No, God blessed you, and so therefore you give the larger amount. And so meaning to say that this is to teach us that you give more and not less. Rabbi Yehuda says Shloshim Kishloshim Shaleved. He says like the 30 of an Eved Kanani who was gored and died, that you have to pay the kinas, the penalty. My time with Rabbi Yehuda. Why does Rabbi Yehuda compare to an Eved Kanani? He says Yav Nesina me Eved. It says the word Nesina by the Hanaka, and it says the word Nesina by Eved Kanani. Malal Shloshim, Avkan Shloshim. Just like there, it's 30 also here. Where it says V'neilaf Nesina me Erchin. But the word Nesina also appears by the Erchin. And Malal on Chamishim, Avkan Chamishim. I want to say just like here it's 50, just like there it's 50, so too here. Where it says 2 reasons why we don't say that. Chala tefasta meruba tefasta is the concept which we have throughout Shas. And if you try to grab the greater amount, you grab nothing. Which, by the way, we could have said the same principle by why do we compare it when we said why don't we compare it to the Olariya? But there we don't say tefasta meruba o tefasta. So and Tosfos asked that question, and Tosfos draws a distinction. And Tosfos gives his technical answer, but just pointing out that Tosfos' question. So first of all, we take the lesser amount for the Eved mi Eved, and also Rabbi Yehuda says it's more logical to compare one slave to another slave, the Eved Ivri to the Eved Kanani. Okay, Rabbi Shimon says we learn the Chamishim kechamishim sheberachem. We compare it to Erchin where there's 50, and that's what we get here. My time made the Rabbi Shimon. What's the reason for Rabbi Shimon? Gamar Nesina me Erchin. We learn out Nesina from Erchin. Mala alon chamishim, afkan chamishim. Just like by Erchin, there's 50. So too here, there's 50. Gemara says ve'ema the pachash of Erchin. Why don't we compare it to the smallest Erchin, which is 3 sela, which is the female girl born from 1 month old? So the Gemara says, why don't we compare it to that? No, we don't, because again, the verse says that God bless you, so you give the greater amount. The verse says, why don't we compare it to the slave? So why don't we compare it to the slave, which is 30? And we have 2 reasons. There are 2 reasons why I should compare it to the slave. One is to the lesser amount, because of tefasta below tefasta. And number 2, because better off to compare a Hebrew slave to a Canaanite slave than to the law of Erchin. The Gemara says, Rabbi Shimon, Micha Gamar. He has a Gezerah Shava from Erchin to the severance pay. And that's why, from the word Mach. So that's why he compares that. Bishlam and Rabbi Meir, it makes sense why Rabbi Meir says that you have to give from 5 from each one, because that's 15. Because it says in the verse, Rabbi Shimon, what did they do with that verse? Where it says, I mean, by the way, Tanya, we learn it for the following. Now Rabbah is called Avar. He says that you might have thought that you could only give the severance from those three categories of your sheep, your grain, and your wine. How do I know that you could give from everything? That God bless you. If that's the case, why does it say the sheep, the granary, and the wine? To tell you, to tell you that just like the Tzon, Gor, and V'Yakov, they're special because they're included within a blessing, meaning to say that they always grow. There's anything that's included within a blessing that grows. Yatzuk Safim, but it excludes money. It doesn't grow. They didn't know about compound interest. That's the position of Rabbi Shimon. Velaz ben Yaakov says Yatsu produce. It excludes mules. That they're not. You can't give severance pay for mules. And Rabbi Shimon says produce mishapchon begufaya. Rabbi Shimon says no. The mules do grow. They get bigger. And Velaz ben Yaakov says ksafim money avibu iska. You do business with them and you increase your investment. Utzricha, and we needed to say Tzon, Gor, and V'Yakov. We need all of them to teach us this halacha. Because of Rahman Tzon, if we just say Tzon, if it would just say the concept of sheep, Havamina, Balichayamin, Gidul, Karkalo, I might think only living creatures are included in the severance, but not anything that grows from the ground. Because of Rahman Goran, so therefore the Torah writes Goran. Because of Goran, Havamina, Gidul, Karka, and Balichayim Lo, I might have thought things that grow from the ground are in severance, but not living creatures. So Kasa Rahman Atzon. Yaakov Lamali, why do we need to say about the winery? And the Gemara says on top of 17b, Amaro Mute Ksavim, Amaro Mute Produce. According to Rabbi Shimon, it's to exclude the case of mules. Exclude case of money. And according to Rabbi Ozer ben Yaakov, it's to exclude the case of mules. Tell Rabbana on the Brayse taught Asher Beracha Hashem Alkecha Yochol Nisparach. It says in the verse that you have to give him the severance pay because your house was blessed on his as a result of him. I might think, okay, let's say he had a good year, you have to give him the severance pay. If your house was blessed, give him the money. If the house wasn't blessed, you don't have to give him a severance gift. Tam Homer Hanek Tanik. There's a double expression which means Mikol Makom. So therefore, if it says what do you do for the fact that it says that your house was blessed? You always give him according to the blessing that you have. Means, say if you had a good bracha, then give him more, if not give him less. Give him the minimum of the 15. But if you had a good year, give him more than that. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, he says, no. You have to take the verse literally. If the house was blessed, give him the severance. But if the house was not blessed, don't give him the severance. Why do we do it? The fact that it says severance you shall give him, the double expression. It says that we learn nothing from that because Torah is just speaking in the normal manner in which people speak. It's not meant to be derived. Tan Rabbanan. So now the Gemara tells us laws of inheritance. Eved Ivri, the Hebrew slave, Oved es aben, ve'ino oved es abas. The master dies. The Hebrew slave is inherited by the son, but not the daughter. Ama Ivriyah, the female slave, Eino oved es los aben lo es abas. She's not inherited by either the son or the daughter. Hanirtza v'animkar, the slave, the Hebrew slave was his ear pierced, or the one who was sold to idolatry. Well, they kochavim, Eino oved los aben lo es abas. They don't serve either the son or the daughter. So now let's analyze the statement. The Hebrew slave serves the son but not the daughter. What's your source for that? The Gemara says that it says in the verse, he shall serve you for 6 years. It means he shall serve you, but not your heir. It doesn't mean you and not your heir, i.e. your daughter, or maybe it means you and not your son. When it says for 6 years he shall work, that means he has to serve your son after you die. So then how do I fulfill the verse and he shall serve you for 6 years? To you, but not to your heir, i.e. to your daughter. Mar says, so why do we say it's coming to include that he serves your son? What about your brother? How do we know he doesn't serve your brother if you die? Gemara says, "Marbani ben shekein kam tachas afav liyada." We're going to include the son to inherit the Hebrew slave because the son has an extra right that if the father buys the female slave, that the father can marry her, and if he doesn't do it, the son could do it without doing another kiddushin. He doesn't have to do another betrothal. And also for the stei achuzah, for an inherited field, that if the father dedicates the inherited field to the temple, if the son redeems it, then the field remains in the family at the Jubilee year. It doesn't go to the Kohanim. Gemara says, Adarabba, just the opposite. I should include the brother. Shekin kam tachas achav liyibam. I should include the brother in inheriting the slave and not the son, because the brother can do yibum with his brother's widow, whereas the son doesn't. Gemara says, no, we don't say that. Kum yeshibum el b'makom she'ein ben. The only time we have yibum is if there's no son. So that means the son is better than the brother. Hayesh ben, but if there be a son, ain't yibum. So the Gemara says, "Oh, time of the ika pircha." So that's the reason. The reason is because if there's no son, if there's a son, there's no yibum. Hayesh ben, ain't yibum. So time of the ika pircha. Alavachi achadif. Without that logic, you would say the brother is better. But why do we need to go to that logic? Typically, the achi tartiva achachada. Why don't we say that in the case of the son? There's two reasons why the son is stronger: inherited field, and also the Ya'ada, whereas in the case of the brother, there's only one, which is Yibam. So the Gemara says, well, stei achuzah nama mehai pircha. The very law, the very idea that only the son can redeem the field for the stei achuzah and to prevent it from going back to the Kohanim, that's learned from a Kal V'chomer, from that the Yibam is learned that the son is stronger than the brother. Because that's how the Tana learns out to love the inherited field with the son, only from the fact that the son is essential to stop the Yibam process. So now we learned the Hebrew female slave does not serve if her master dies, she doesn't serve the son or the daughter. What's the source? Also, to your female slave, you should do this. That's what the pasuk says. The pasuk says you shall take the martzeya and you take the awl and you place his ear. You put it in his ear and by the door, and he shall be a slave for you forever. And also to your maid, you shall do this. Now, it doesn't mean we already learned that we don't do this piercing of the ear to the maid, to the female slave. So what does it mean? Hikisha kosav l'nir. So the Torah is comparing the ama evriyah to the one who has his ear pierced. Just like one who has his ear pierced does not serve the son or the daughter. So to thy female slave, also the female slave, she does not serve the son or the daughter. Gemara says, is that what we're learning from this phrase? This is what you should do to your maid. Don't we need it like the following brisa? That means to say that you give her the severance pay. Doesn't mean to give her severance pay or that she doesn't get her ear pierced. When it says, if the male slave will say, I want my ear pierced, I want to remain your slave. So therefore, we see that the piercing is only by the male slave and not by the female slave. So we see from here that is to teach us that she gets severance pay. So how can we say it's coming to teach us this idea that she's not inherited? That she's not inherited by the son or the daughter. So the Gemara says, the verse, if it was just teaching us that she doesn't get her ear pierced, it would just, and that she gets severance, it would say, kain, my ta'aseh, and the extra word ta'aseh, shema minat starti. We learn both laws, that A, she's not inherited by the son or the daughter, and B, she gets the severance. One who has his ear pierced, or one who is sold to an idolater, does not serve the son or the daughter of either one, meaning you don't serve the idolater's children, and you also you're not inherited by the son or daughter of the one whom you inherited, of the one who inherited you. How do we know this law by the one who has his ear pierced? Because it says, and the master will pierce his ear with the awl and he'll serve him forever. And he shall serve the master, but not the son, and not the daughter. How do we know if he sold to an idolater that he does not serve him? If the master dies, it says you calculate with the one who bought you if you want to require your freedom. But we see from here, but not with the heirs of the one who bought it. Biblically speaking, an idolater can inherit his father. And the reason why this is relevant, they're not really asking us the law, but it's telling us as Jews, if an idolater dies, we're not allowed to just take his assets because his assets are inherited by his son. Discussion, do all the laws of inheritance, like the rules of succession, apply, or is it just the son? That's a discussion amongst the Rishonim. So, biblically speaking, an idolater inherits his father. It says, that proves that he has heirs, because it says you calculate with him, but now with his heirs. That proves that he has heirs. From a convert who converted from idolatry, he inherits from his father, but not biblically speaking, but only rabbinically speaking. Let's say you have a convert and his brother is still an idolater who inherited their father, who's an idolater. The Ger Yachal Omar, the convert could say to his brother, you take the idolatry, you take his idols. Let's say he has some very expensive idols. And I'll take the money. And it's not going to be considered like he's benefiting from idolatry because the whole point here is he hasn't yet gotten into his possession because biblically speaking, he hasn't inherited it. So the rabbis are allowed to tell him that this is what you could do. Or you could say, you take the wine that's idolatrous, I need payros, and I'll take the other produce. Or shus, ger also. But once the convert has in his domain, it's prohibited. And if you say the laws of inheritance of the convert for an idolater are biblically speaking, are biblical, so even if it doesn't come yet into his domain, Nami, it would still be prohibited. He has all the idolatry and he's selling it, so to speak, to take his assets. And so therefore it's proof that he hasn't yet inherited it, because biblically speaking, the convert does not inherit his father. So how does the convert inherit his father? Only rabbinically. The rabbis made a decree that he inherits it because they're worried that if he doesn't inherit it, he's going to go back to his former idolatrous path. And we don't want that. And so therefore we allow him, because we think he might be enticed by the money, he'll go back to his path. So we allow him to do this, to give his brother, who's an idolater, the idolatrous assets, and he keeps the rest of the estate. Indeed, we learned this in the Bride. So when do we say this idea? When do we say this idea that the convert is allowed to switch the assets with his brother? Kisha Yarshu, when they inherited it, but if they were partners and that's how they got it, then it would be usher because it's already in his domain. So then it says, let's say we have an idolater who wants to inherit his son who converted, or a convert, let's say father and son convert, and they're both converts, then they don't inherit, not biblically speaking, and not even rabbinically, because we're not concerned there about this idea of Shema Yasser Osuro. And the Gemara is going to bring us proof for this. The Tanya, even though it says the Tanya, will change the Girsa. Right, so you borrowed money from a convert and his children converted with him. And the father dies, you don't have to pay it back to his children because since they don't inherit him, not biblically speaking, not rabbinically, and even if he does return it, the rabbis aren't happy with him because he didn't need to do it. And meaning to say, there's not even an aspect, the Meiri says there's not even an aspect of piety. And the reason is, so what's the concept? What's the concept? The Meiri explains that what he's doing Now, the Shita Lono to me explains because the reason why the sages aren't happy is because he's confusing other people because they're thinking they're gonna either they have to return under those circumstances, and so therefore he's people won't know the halacha, and so therefore what the Gemara says. But don't we have a different source that says Vatanya Ruach Chamim Nochaim? Don't we have a different source which says that the sages are pleased with him? Well, Kasha Kansha Horasa V'Idasa Shalobatusha Kansha Horasa Shalobatusha V'Idasa Batusha. Well, it depends on under which circumstances he was born. If he was actually conceived while he was not Jewish, but he was born while he was Jewish, then the sages do allow you to return the money to the child of the convert. Okay, we'll stop here. God willing, pick this up next time. Shkoyach, shkoyach.